our question today, Chris, what can we do when we're finding it hard to be a disciple of Jesus?
Can we start by being honest? It's always good to be honest, isn't it? And I'd love to ask you this question. How often do you doubt your faith?
Every day.
It's a regular thing, isn't it?
Yes.
And there's a problem when we make being a disciple as you have to perform with strength. So what's the phrase that often people say about church? Everybody else has got it sorted and I don't feel like I fit. But if you were to stand up and say, could you please raise your hand if you struggled with your faith this week? All the hands go up. So there's a lack of honesty there. And I love it in Matthew 28, where it says that Jesus calls the disciples up onto the mountain, and some worshipped him and some doubted. Some translations say some hesitated. I love it that doubt goes alongside worship in that passage. And I love saying to people, if you're struggling with your faith, welcome to the Discipleship Club. Being a disciple of Jesus does not mean you've got it all sorted. It just means that you're on a trajectory of following and copying Jesus. And there will be days when it is hard. And there will be times when you struggle and you find it really, really difficult. So what do we do then when we doubt, and what do we do when we're struggling and we're finding it hard? And that's where the family come in. I think we are given the people of God. We're given the church, aren't we? We're meant to be in community. Now, if the community are not going to be honest with each other, then it will just create more doubt. And until we are able to be honest, I'm not sure others will be honest. So I'll be honest with you and say, I doubt, I have struggles, I have questions. There are days when I just think, does this even add up? And until we're honest with each other, we're not going to find that sense of community. The other thing is, I love reading C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis says, if you want to get hot, then you've got to get by the fire. And if you want to get wet, then you've got to get into the waterfall. And the idea for me there is, if you want to be a passionate follower of Jesus, the way to do it is to get with others who are passionate around that fire. And if you want to be filled with the Spirit and you want to be dripping with his presence, then the way to do it is to get into the place where you will encounter that. So if you are struggling with your faith, the one thing you shouldn't do is avoid church. Now, I have this all the time with people that come to my church. I've not seen you in 2 months. How are you? Oh, I've been really struggling. Oh, yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? You're struggling, therefore you retreat from the very thing you need more of. It makes no sense. If you've gone for a long run and you're gasping for breath, you don't hold your breath more. You breathe. And I feel like I'm forever saying to people, if you are struggling with your faith, lean in. Don't lean out, but actually press in. The other thing for me that's just interesting, having spent some time with Christians from China in the underground church, and I was just talking to them about faith and one of their phrases they said is this: Chris, your problem is you love life more than Jesus. No wonder you have a faith problem. You love life more than you do Jesus. And I've got to ask this question: what can we do when we're finding it hard to be a disciple of Jesus? I think we need to ask ourselves a simple question. Am I finding it hard because actually, if I'm honest, I love life more than I love Jesus? And the reason I'm finding it hard to follow Jesus is he said, follow me, and I'm going totally in the opposite direction. And then I'm complaining, I find it hard, Well, of course you find it hard. You've gone off the track and you've wanted, no wonder you found it hard. You're not copying Jesus. You're not praying. You're not pressing into him. So I have to be honest, how much of my struggle is not the absence of God, but actually more the absence of me. And when I say I found church difficult on Sunday, God didn't turn up, most of the time it's actually I didn't turn up. I'm thinking about my emails and what I'm going to eat. So can we be honest and say sometimes the struggles actually come from ourselves? And if we want to be people who are passionate for Jesus, let's get in with people who are on fire, that are actually around that campfire. And I love the idea of church being a campfire. A little campfire that we all come round and we get warm round. And then if we don't spend time around the campfire, we can't be surprised that we then struggle because we're away from the heat, we're away from the warmth. And I don't say that to make us feel guilty, because we don't need any more guilt. We're very good at making ourselves feel guilty. But just to inspire us, who do you want to be as a disciple of Jesus? Do you want to be lukewarm, or do you want to be on fire? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this properly. I'm not going to mess around being a half-hearted Christian. What's the point? I mean, I might as well do it or not. So therefore, if I'm struggling, am I leaning in? Am I spending time with the right kind of people? Am I getting myself warm around the campfire? And am I in that place where I'll be filled with the Spirit? Am I under the waterfall?
Do you think as well that there's an element of that retreating when we're struggling, and also that element of loving life perhaps more than Jesus, where it comes down to control? So when we feel perhaps that we're not on top of things ourselves or in control, or there's another issue that's making us feel that we're struggling because we're not in control of that. How do we deal with that as a disciple?
If we're not consuming Jesus, we'll consume something else. And I would argue we're all addicts of something. And I think what we end up doing is we go for the quick fix. If we're not spending time with Jesus that's going to fuel us, we will find other means to make ourselves feel better. We'll self-medicate on other stuff. And it's stuff that's short-lived. It's sugar food. It gives you a buzz for a while, but actually after a short period of time, you feel worse than you did before. So we end up self-medicating on things that are shiny and nice, but actually are nothing but junk food. We're not going to the healthy stuff, we're going to the unhealthy stuff. So it's a case of recognizing what is it that I'm consuming, and do I need to move myself back to a healthier diet?
So Chris, if we do sense that we're struggling, and I'm the first to admit my first reaction would be to retreat or stay away, what can we do to counteract that? What could be our first move to not deal with it how we always have done?
The reality is we're all clinging on to something, aren't we? We're all holding on to stuff to make ourselves feel steady in a world that's radically changing. And the things that we cling on to can be our money, or it can be a relationship, it can be a habit or an addiction that we have. And even if you've been to church for years and you've never touched alcohol and drugs, you are an addict to something. We've all got things that we self-medicate with. And it ultimately is about surrendering those things. We can't grab hold of Jesus if our hands are full of all the wrong things. So it comes back to that idea of surrender and allowing ourselves to cling on to the right stuff. So it's a step-by-step process of giving over the things in our lives that we hold on to that we shouldn't be holding on to. And then as we release them from our fingers, allow that finger to hold on to Jesus, and giving up some things quickly. So there's some things that you might want to surrender fast because they're easy to get rid of, but as you go deeper, there'll be other things that need to be surrendered that take longer to get rid of because they're either deeper or they're harder to get out of our lives. So it's a process of releasing the things that need releasing and allowing their power over us to be released, so that Jesus's power and hold over our lives can actually become stronger.
Brilliant, Chris. That's a great first step for us. Thank you so much once again. Again, if anyone wants to join us on this discipleship journey and do a bit of work in between the weeks, where can they go to? Yeah,
come to wearemakingdisciples.com. We've got a whole set of tools on there that you can use to just look at your life, assess your faith, and look at what you can put into your life to actually make it thrive in Jesus.
Brilliant, Chris. Thank you. Next week, we are going to be asking the question how we can serve like Jesus as his disciples.